virtual environment for all of those projects. So your dependencies, all the other software you might be using stays inside of that virtual environment and it stays updated. So in this one, we're going to actually show you some of the basics of using pipenv instead of virtual env. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now you might be watching this video on this blog post, and if you're not, definitely go ahead and take a look at that blog post, because what it's going to do is give you a lot more context or just different ways on how you can use pipenv that may be missing from the actual documentation, or just things I really wanted to point out myself. So make sure you check a look at that blog post either now or after this video is done. And I will say, you Windows users, I will have a portion for you that is specific for you towards the end of this video as well. But if you are a Windows user, just bear with us and take a look and watch, because a lot of the things that we'll do aren't actually different on Windows, and that's one of the coolest things about using virtual environments, and specifically pipenv. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and open up our terminal. I'm inside of my desktop here. First thing that you want to do is pip install pipenv. Yep, that's it. That's the one command to install it. Now, of course, you might have permissions, things that you need to do. So sudo pip install pipenv. That might be something you need to run as well. But for the rest of us, all I'm going to do now is create a directory or folder where I want my project to be. Right? So wherever you're going to put your Python files, that's where we're going to put our actual pipenv file as well, known as a pip file. So we'll go ahead and do make dir venv, and then I'll cd into venv, and then just do pipenv. Ha, a lot of stuff there. We'll do pipenv and then -- python, and then whichever Python version you want to use. Now, in my case, it's Python 3, but you can replace this with a path to the Python executable, which what I mean by that is Python 3 opens up the Python shell for me. In my case, it's Python 3.6, or excuse me, Python 3.7. But if I wanted to use Python 3.6, I would use Python 3.6 like that, right? It's going to be different depending on your system. Another way to think about this too is if you did which Python 3.6, this is the path to that executable. So you could also do pipenv -- python and then that path, whatever that is. Okay, cool. So what that command did was it created a virtual environment for that specific version of Python. So if I just did pipenv shell, what this does is activate the virtual environment. Really cool. Same across all systems. And it allows me to see that, yeah, if I do pip freeze, I don't have anything installed. So it actually manages all of my pip installations too, or the Python package installations as well. Really, really cool. And then, of course, if I do Python V or -v, I see the actual version of Python I'm using inside of this pipenv. Another thing that you'll see is this pip file. So if I actually open up this pip file inside of any text editor, we will see something like this. Now, this pip file gives you all of the overview of your project. It gives you local dev packages, it gives you production packages or required production packages, and then it also gives you the Python version it's using. Right? So I could actually send you this pip file, and all you would need to do is pipenv install and hit enter, and it will actually install the pip file for you and or create the pip file lock. Now, what pip file lock looks like is this, right? So I actually don't have anything installed yet, like I don't have any third-party packages installed yet, but it's giving me very specific things related to my project. Now, if you're coming from virtual environment, you'll know probably about requirements.txt. This just doesn't even touch that. I mean, requirements.txt is only a piece of the pip file. And that piece we haven't touched yet, but I will absolutely do it right now. So to install a package, I can be in the virtual environment or not. That part doesn't matter. In fact, let's go ahead and just close out that window altogether, and we'll cd into our desktop and back into our venv again, and literally just do pipenv install, and then whatever package we want. So if we wanted Django, the latest version of Django, we would do it this way. If we want a specific version, we would do it like that, right? So 1.11.10, that's how you now install the latest or that particular version of Django or any Python package, right? So Django is just one of the many, probably hundreds of thousands of Python packages. So after it actually installs that, we look in our pip file and hey, what do you know? It actually gives an explicit version of Django right there. Now, you're probably also familiar with requirements.txt. If you're not, let's just take a look real quick because you might end up using projects that have a requirements.txt. Now, what if we had requests in here and we put it equal to, I don't even know the request versions. Let's just do something like that. Okay. So I have requests in here. To install a request file, we just do pipenv install-r requirements.txt. Hopefully that version actually is there. Like that's a real requests version. I'm actually not positive if it is, but well, looks like it might have been. And it is. Cool. Okay, so Python requests is in there. It's installed now. So again, to activate the virtual environment, we just do pipenv shell. And now we're in that virtual environment. If I do pip freeze in here, it will show me all the things that are installed, like requests, like Django, and Django had a dependency called pytz. So again, if we deactivate this virtual environment and exit out of that pipenv shell, we are now back into just that general file or, the project directory here. So a lot of times you'll see make src, so you have an src folder where your project might end up being or where the actual files might end up being, or you don't, or you have the pip file in where, like if you're working with Django, where manage.py is, right? So this pip file is really, really cool because you can also do pipenv update, and this will actually update your packages. Now, it's not necessarily going to update it if it's not out of date, right? So if I do pipenv update requests, I can look for the newest version of requests, and perhaps it is that actual version. That would be an amazing guess. I don't think it is. So let's go ahead and do Python requests and just take a look. So in Python requests, the version number right now is 2.1.9 or 2.19.1, right? So all I would do then is if I wanted to actually update that, because I guess technically the 2.12.0 is not out of date. So then I would just do pipenv install requests equals to that version, and this will do that upgrade for me, right? So it gets all the things that are out of date. It installs any other dependencies that you might need, and just really makes that working. So let's go ahead and go into the shell. Let's say, for instance, you forgot to use pipenv, but you have activated your shell. So if I did pip install Django REST framework, actually that's not the install, it's Django REST framework. If I installed that package and my pip file does not have it now, right? So all you would then do is pip freeze and back into that requirements.txt, kind of like what you may have done before. That's just a very simple way to do it. Then pipenv install-r requirements.txt. Cool. So just a few commands on how to actually go about using pipenv. It's just a virtual environment manager. That's all it really is. And we have a location for that. So if you actually go scroll up a little bit, or when you actually go into the pipenv shell, it's going to show you where the virtual environment itself is located, and then it's also going to activate it for you on your system, or depending on what system you use. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at those Windows ones. Now, if you're not a Windows user and you're just a Mac user and you're done, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to get everything. I'm going to be doing a lot more Python, Django, JavaScript related videos, so stay with us. Windows users, let's take a look. There's a really good chance that you're not even here, because doing pipenv on Windows is really not any different than doing it on Mac or Linux. All of you have it roughly the same, and that is you go into, in my case for Windows, it's going to be PowerShell. If you're using command prompt, you should probably upgrade your Windows to Windows 10 so you can use PowerShell. But if I just did pip install pip env, I already have it installed, so that's why you see all this. If you have that installed, then you can cd into, let's say, your desktop, make a directory called venv where you would put your virtual environment's project files. So we cd into that, and then all I need to do here is pip env and Python, and then the Python version you want to have. Now you can also actually put the explicit path to that, and I'll show you how to find this in just a second. And that's Python 36 python.exe. Now to find this, we open up our window or file explorer, and then we go into where you think that you installed Python or where you just installed Python. We go into the C drive here, and then whichever version of Python you've got here, you're going to open it up, and you want to look for the application or the .exe file. So in my case, it's just that Python file right there. Oops, I right-clicked on the wrong one. So right-click on the correct Python file, and notice that there's .exe here. You want the Python executable. So once I do that, it will actually create my Python environment. In this case, I'm using 3.6, but again, it can be any version as long as you change what that path is. But other than that, it's identical. It just might look a little bit different. Of course, some of the commands that you write out are slightly different. But again, pip env shell, that brings me into that virtual environment. In my case, I actually don't have the parentheses like I have in other virtual environments. But I know that I'm in my virtual environment because, well, number one, if I do pip freeze, I see that there isn't anything in there. But it also says launching sub shell in virtual environment once I run that. So it is actually different from your main project or your main computer. And then again, pip env install, Django or requests, whatever sort of Python package you might need to use. That's how you do it. Pip env install requests, and then again back into our file explorer. We go into our desktop, venv, open up our pip file with your text editor. It can be any of these. I'm just going to open up Sublime Text. And again, we have all of the things that are related. Although the pip file's organized slightly different, right? So in the Mac one, the dev packages was first, but it doesn't matter because this is identical of a pip file. Requirements files are identical too, but this is an identical one for pip files are concerned. I could send you this along with all my Python files. You just run pip env install. Boom, you've got your project working exactly how it should. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to get everything. If you have any questions on this or you're running into some roadblocks with pipenv, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.